Welcome to the PAWCast.
Hey everybody, how's it going? I'm doing something different today. I'm sitting here all by myself. If you're just listening, I apologize that you just have to listen to me today. I know that most everybody tends to tune in for Carlo's insights and knowledge and experience and all that sort of stuff. But wanted to take a little bit of time just kind of on my own today to talk about this idea that's been stuck in my head. To be perfectly honest with you, I don't know where this is going to go. This is actually take two. But really, there's this, I was talking to Carlo last night, and we were just kind of discussing our people and some of the problems that we've been experiencing kind of across the, with protocol and just people following kind of the quote unquote right way to do things, and really made a bit of a speech over text message about wanting to, well, let me digress a little bit. The goal of 2020 was for it to be a year of empowerment. This year absolutely got away from us. COVID kicked us right in the butt, and then we opened a new clinic, and we grew almost 60% in caseload, and we simply, we didn't lose this year. We grew in a number of different ways, but it wasn't really in empowerment. And with that, and then as you guys, if you listen to the podcast relatively frequently, a lot of our people kind of falling into survival mode. And now we're starting to turn the corner out of it. When I was talking with him, I was like, I was kind of pleading, and I just said, we need to start to figure out how to make our people relentless in the pursuit of serve the patient. And I've had this word relentless stuck in my head for about the last week or two. Over Thanksgiving, I read a book called The Dichotomy of Leadership, written by Jocko Willink and Leif Babin. I don't really know how to say it. It's Babin for those that are curious. But Jocko has written a number of different books. He and Leif are former SEAL team leaders. They worked their way up in military ranks, and now they do business consulting, as their full-time gig. When I was working at the consulting company that I came from, read a lot of their stuff, read a lot of books in general, just to always try and source these ideas. And in that book, I believe it's chapter 6, he talks about this concept of being default aggressive, and that the mindset of just not being afraid to get in and get your boots on, get your helmet on, and start to try stuff, start to contribute to the team. And that's where this word relentless for me came from, and started doing a lot of consideration of the people that are on our team that have stuck around the longest, the folks that are on our team that have realized the most success. And that term, relentless, is the one that keeps popping up to me because it really seems to be the variable that's the difference maker. It's the thing that if they have it, they seem to succeed here easily. They're not afraid to get in and just continue to try. For us here, the relentless can mean a lot of different things. It can be just showing up every day and never wavering in your ability to fulfill your duties for the patient that are here. It can also mean never ending the problem solving that's necessary to improve protocol that supports that purpose. It can mean trying every single day to keep the people that work here fulfilled, both mentally, physically, PAW's purpose and well-being, and to continuously feed that is something that we want people to be relentless on. But why? It's all because the relentless pursuit of serve the patient. Protocol supports that. that the individual return that we try to provide as a company to our people supports that. And the more that we are able to engage people on this purpose, the easier it becomes to update protocol. And that was probably the thing that I think blindsided us the most this summer was we got really bogged into protocol. We had a new building. We had a gluttony of cases. We had new doctors. We had more new staff than we've ever hired before. All of these people that just needed the fundamentals of how to operate at PAW Health, because fortunately, but unfortunately, we're so different in the way that we operate that we really have to focus hard on fundamentals. We really have to focus hard on making sure that people know the right basic steps along the way. And with that, and the amount of time that was provided to us essentially, in it actually being very limited, what we started to do was actually just micro dive into some of the most pertinent or most outstanding problems. And with that, again, just kept drilling down and down and down and kind of lost a little bit of the vision. Now, that was bound to happen just based on the variables that were there, but now it's about recentering. And with that recentering, again, that's why this word relentless keeps coming to mind. That's what we want. We want people that, they're going to see what happened this summer and realize the fact that so many variables were beating us, that they're not going to quit because of that. They're going to be relentless and say, you know what? We absolutely lost a little bit. We got our asses handed to us, and it's time to make that better. It's time to start to solve that problem. It's time for me to start to contribute to the solution that's going to make sure that that doesn't happen again. It's not we're going to sit on our hands and wait for the solution to come around. It's going to be how can I as an individual collaborate with those that are around me and improve protocol, improve well-being of those that are around me, improve clarity with my fellow staff members, improve the whole thing, because the whole thing is built around the one purpose, the one shared purpose of serve the patient. And the more that, this is another one of the things that's in that book is you also have to balance this concept of empowerment with accountability. We talk a lot about accountability. It's probably the thing that we talk the most about. And this concept sort of takes away from that, but it also makes it more effective. We don't focus on it as much because we focus on it more effectively. Where people are going to get out, they're going to try, they're going to do stuff, they're going to create these feedback loops with the people that work here, the people that are above them, below them in terms of just role, if you will. And there's going to be times that they're going to falter, they're going to miss. And the biggest thing that I can say, if you're experiencing that, is going to be to ask that person why. That's the word that matters. Because the more that you can ask why, the more you can determine whether or not you have someone that is willing and able to be effectively relentless. And sometimes you have someone where you got to pin them in. You got to say, here's the set of variables where I need you to just push and push and push. And sometimes you have someone that doesn't miss, and you just let them run free, and somehow they keep doing it. But everyone's going to miss at some point. But all of it is about using accountability as a tool to maintain this relentless nature. Now, I'm going to try and stop using that word because I'm sure it's getting a little bit tiresome. But again, let's go to the concept that's straight out of the book, is this default aggressive, this default of see a problem, make a solution. see a problem, contribute to the individual or to the team that's ultimately going to implement the solution. Be an implementer, try something out, put it to the test, and give feedback where it works, where it doesn't. All of this really is just meant to engage that individual purpose. And that's why you shouldn't be afraid of it. Don't be afraid of where you work and what that purpose is, because if you're afraid something's out of whack, and you have to figure out what it is, because if it's you can work on that. I myself, that's why I read all the time. I'm always questioning the way that I think, the way that I talk, the way that I do things, and trying my best to be the best person that I can be. And thankfully, I'm in a place that person, at least as it stands, is in alignment with where he works. I don't see that changing anytime soon, but you never know. The world's a strange place. But if you don't have that, self-analysis is going to be the first place to start. How can you improve? How can you bring more to the table? How can you engage the purpose that is in front of you? Do you engage it through protocol and just making it better? Do you engage it through clarity? Do you engage it through implementation, just being just flat out the absolute best at doing something? There's a lot of different options that are on that front. But as you start to engage that, as you start to put yourself more out there, also see how it's met. You have to read the room and understand if it's being met with acceptance or met with resistance. And the way that I would recommend that you try to understand it is going to be this. You're going to make a mistake. Everybody does. I do all the time. I joke about that a little bit, but I'm really, really good at screwing up. But I'm also not afraid of the communication that comes after it. But the way that communication occurs in an environment where you're of a shared purpose is the individual that you're going to have that conversation with is going to be, why did this mistake occur? They're going to play why. So you're asking why, they're asking why. And it all really is meant to drill down to, how do we as a team continue to engage this shared purpose? And if it's not met with that, if the individual doesn't ask why, then you start to do it. So you make a mistake. They say, hey, this is what it is. This is how you do it right. And your understanding of the scenario was a little bit different. Or maybe you just flat out biffed and you can be, all right, you're right. And I'm more than happy to do it the other way. Or the correct way, excuse me. But if that's not your understanding, if you see a scenario and you say, no, that doesn't capture the whole picture, but the other person isn't receptive to that, then you have to ask them why they're not willing to hear you out. You have to start to engage that the purpose discussion. Where are they coming from? Because if it is different from you, you have to figure that out. No one's actually going to spoon feed that to you. A company can say that there are a lot of different things. A boss can say that he's, a true-blooded leader or whatever it might be. People in companies and all that say a lot of things. We're also very human. We all make mistakes. And sometimes we just don't realize when we're lying. If that is the case, though, and you're seeking to be relentless in fulfilling a purpose, that means that it's your job to make sure that those that are around you are fulfilling the same purpose. And you continue to ask why. You continue to ask why. And if you never get to an answer, then you continue your way out the door. That's a hard thing for a lot of people to do. A lot of variables play into that. And you have to balance all of the variables that are in your life. However, once you're able to get to the point of balance, then you have to get out. That's the only way I can really put it. And that's the biggest reason why we tend to focus and we harp on corporate practice in the veterinary industry. It's so hard to get to that ultimate why when you have 8 layers of people that are between you and the decision maker of a protocol, of a process, of how you implement it, of all of these different things. And it's those layers that completely demotivate people. It's those layers that they just remove your autonomy to make decisions in the moment and be relentless in the pursuit of the mission. To be able to creatively problem solve and try something. And then if and when you make a mistake, to have an engaging, meaningful conversation with the person that is ultimately to hold you accountable. It does not mean that you eliminate accountability as a whole, but when you have shared purpose, accountability becomes extremely easy. Accountability is simply a balance between between itself and empowerment, and between this being relentless and getting out and trying, because we have to have bounds in which we operate. But again, the question is why? Why do we have those bounds? It's to fulfill the mission. So my challenge essentially to you is to find where you can implement solutions and engage purpose that aligns with your motivations. Again, here at PAW Health, we make our motivations exceptionally clear, and I'm thankful that we do, because it does at least allow us the opportunity to thin the herd out a little bit, essentially, when we are in the hiring process. Focus extremely hard on serve the patient. We focus extremely hard on the fact that this job is taxing. It is difficult. It is not meant for everyone. But if you're willing to be relentless in your pursuit of this concept of serve the patient and to help those that need you the most, then there's nothing here that you can't do. Not everyone's going to have that clarity. Not every company is going to be able to just focus it down into their 10-second elevator speech or whatever. Sometimes it's a challenge for you to force that out of them. Sometimes you'll just know it and it's a gut feeling and you really can't put words to it. That's fine too. But ultimately, you have to find where you can implement solutions and engage a purpose that aligns with your motivations. So then the next thing is, well, actually, maybe it's the first thing. Figure out what your motivations are. What the heck do you want to do? For me, it took me forever to figure that out. And honestly, I'm continuously engaging that and making sure that I'm being genuine to myself. And someday, maybe I end up in a completely different seat, in a totally different area of life, of work, of whatever. But right now, I know with absolute certainty that I awkwardly stare into a camera and talk to myself, essentially, because this is meant to serve the patient. Now, it might not be the patients that are downstairs right now. Thankfully, this broadcast goes out to a lot of different people that are working in a lot of different places, and that was the whole point of putting together the PAWCast, is to encourage these ideas to those that are simply listeners or are just not on the floor with us every day. So we're hitting all of these different things. But if you share that purpose, that's something that you have control over. Like, you can do everything in your power to serve the patients that are around you, even maybe if you're in an environment that doesn't ultimately share that same purpose with you. But then that comes to the next point, is you need to start to find a place that does. Once you know for sure what works for you, go find the people that you share that with, and don't be afraid of it. Don't be disingenuous to yourself. Don't make the ultimate compromise of lying to yourself as a means to acquire a paycheck, as a means to maintain comfortability, because no growth happens in the comfort zone. You can't actually get out and change and make a difference if you're just focused on being comfortable. If that's your thing, that's your thing. I'm fine with it. It's just not my thing. And that's really not what this is meant for. Because I'm talking to the people that want to be relentless in fulfilling their purpose. I really wasn't sure how to end this, but ultimately, don't be, I guess to kind of wrap this whole thing up, all I can really say is don't be afraid. Don't be afraid of being aggressive. Don't be afraid of being relentless. This is a little bit to myself. I tend to be a little bit fearful of trying things and doing things, but really focus in on where you can make a difference, where you can try, where you can improve protocol, where you can, test things out, where you can implement things so dang well that you're a leader in simply the way that you do your job. Define purpose, make it so upsettingly clear for yourself and for those that are around you so that you can work to sharing it with those that you work with. Focus on the individual returns that purpose provides. So for us, Serve the Patient works on so many different levels. It's just about continuing to focus, to describe how that empowers everything that's around us, because everything around us empowers it. It's a back and forth that I can't really say. I don't know one that works better, and I'm thankful that I'm able to live in a world where that actually exists. But again, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to try. Don't be afraid to get out and do, and don't be afraid to ask why, because why is going to be the question that gets you to the answer that you need. So I hope that this wasn't terrible. Again, this is super awkward for me. It's the first time I've ever done this. So let me know kind of what your thoughts are on just listening to me ramble for 20 minutes or so. If you have anything that is kind of outstanding that, you're hoping for some additional clarity on, or maybe a resource, again, we always list out resources in the descriptions to these videos and podcasts. All of the books that I put down there, I've read. So I can maybe just try something else out. But last thing, just make sure that you subscribe. We're always trying to do different stuff on here and focusing on different ideas. The next thing that I think we're going to do is do a kind of a debrief on a keynote speech that Dr. Carlo got to do, and we had some questions about there. So that should be pretty cool. Some pretty direct feedback for some folks that we were able to talk to. And always trying something new. So just stay tuned on all of that. Thanks for being patient with me, and y'all take care.